Good afternoon, good evening. How everybody doing? Creative Financing with JB. Back with my man Marvin Sarpey. We got an interesting conversation today because as we talk about this real estate, we're going to talk about some things that have changed, some expectations, but we're going to talk about something very critical for these people selling houses today. Something that has to stand out, something that you probably not even aware of when it comes to listing your home. So listing your home, preparing it to sell, being on the market, being in good shape, getting the best valuable dollar out of it is so important. But it's certain things that as Melvin goes around and he has to list your home, that it's a criteria he probably has to go through. We're going to break that down today so y'all can have an understanding of what we're doing. This is just not going in there taking some pictures, saying, "Oh man, this all right, I ain't gonna do this, give me the best price possible, and keep going there." Which, like I tell the folks, you can do that, but you're not maximizing your dollar for what you need to get for that house and what you're going to use for the next house. Because some of that money you're probably going to use to reinvest to another home. Because if you don't, you got capital gains, and that's a whole story for another day. But we're gonna get into it. But we're gonna talk about Mel just listing the home, seller's consultation. Just walk us through the first step of a seller calls you, Mel, I'm ready to sell my house because we need to go to something bigger, and how that consultation works.
Absolutely. And before I start, Johnny, I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to come here on your show and and share, with your group and feel good talk show. So definitely want to thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think the last time I was here, we were talking about on the other side as far as buyers. So today we're going to focus on the seller side and what you need to do as a seller to get your home ready, get it on the market, and get top dollar for it. So my process, or normally what happens, is when I do get a call from a seller that wants to sell their home, obviously I'll ask them, the first thing that I'll ask them is their reason why, right? Why are they looking to sell? It could be for various reasons. And then the next is to schedule an appointment with them. The reason being is that I need to see the house for what it is so that we can have a conversation. So schedule a meeting, I go to their house. And then when I walk in from I'm looking at the house or the property from two angles. One from a real estate agent angle, there to help you sell your house. And also from a buyer, regular buyer walking in through your house who has no knowledge about real estate in most cases, or has some idea. The reason why it's important is because from the real estate agent side, I can let you know some things that you need to address before we go on the market, or sometimes you may not even need to address it. And then from a regular buyer side, the reason why it's important is because it's going to be other people coming into your home to look at it and buy it. So they're looking for particular things that most buyers are looking at, that I want to make sure that you have it available already when they walk in, if that opportunity exists. So that's kind of my approach to helping you sell your home. And then obviously we once I walk through the property, we'll sit down and discuss the next steps.
Wow. And walking through that property is so important, and seeing so many things, as far as repairs, stuff that can be improved. But you probably get it. Mel, my house is worth $350. I don't care. This is what the thing said. Mine is worth $350, and folks got to understand it's a criteria that falls with that price. So we're just not taking numbers out of nowhere to get you to that price of what it goes for. But Mel, we're gonna explain that it's a method of comps and stuff like that, and you can break that down more efficiently than I can about how do we come up with that price.
Absolutely. And in today's tech tech-enabled world, obviously, sellers have information right on in the palm of their hands, right? There's different ways for them to get an idea of what their homes are worth. There are third-party websites that give them um, numbers based on algorithms. That's fine. Their banks is probably sending them numbers as well. That's fine. They probably saw their neighbor home sell, which is fine as well. But it's always good, to get a professional's opinion, and that's what I bring to the table. What do I mean by that is, when I come and see you, when I walk through the property, I'm looking at it from a condition perspective. What is the state of your property? Let's not focus on what you think your house is worth because you saw somebody else's house sell for $350. It may be worth $350, but let's focus on what it is, and let's see what the data that I'm going to share with you from the real estate database that we work from and we have access only to is telling us that your house is worth. So once I walk through your property and see what the condition is, condition may fall in 3 categories in my eyes. One category could be you've owned the property, but you haven't done any updates to it since you had it, let's say 5-10 years ago or 20-30 years ago. The second condition is that you've maintained it or you've done some updates to it, maybe not necessarily all updates to the house, meaning that you painted everything, updated bathroom, kitchen, and whatnot. And then the third condition is you fully updated. And when I'm talking about fully updated, I mean, you've changed the floors, you've updated kitchen with everything new, you have updated bathrooms, you've painted the place, you've probably even gone ahead and updated the roof, new roof. You've done so much to it that when someone walks in, it's relatively like a new home. So based on these 3 categories, I'm going to pull data. And what I mean by data is, first, we're going to focus on your sub community or your neighborhood, right? So if you live in ABC development, we're going to pull data. We're going to look at it actually, pull data for the last 6 months. Let's see what other houses have sold for. And I'm looking for closed homes, homes that are pending, because it kind of gives me an idea of how quickly you went on the contract. But the main focus is on the closed homes. Reason being is that down the road, when you get a buyer that's coming to buy a property, if they're financing, the bank is going to do an appraisal, and they're normally looking at the closed data more so than pending or currently active. We'll pull that data. I'm looking at, based on the data, I'm looking for houses that are similar to yours in terms of if it's a single house, we only pull in single homes. We're not pulling townhomes. We're not pulling anything else. We're pulling homes that have 3 bedrooms or more, if that's what yours have. We're looking at the square footage of it, right? And then we're sometimes looking at how old it is compared to the other ones. Let's say we have a pile of 4 to 6 homes that kind of meet or matches your criteria. Then now we're going to break it down a little bit more. I'll pull up the property. We'll look at the pictures, right, just to see which category or which bucket it falls under. And then once we look at the bucket that it falls under, we're going to look at the description, what updates were done or not done to it. And then the last is what was it listed for? That's the key, right? What was it listed for? What did it go on the contract for? And what did it sell for? So once we are able to pull maybe 2 or 3 property that are similar or close to yours, then I can advise you that based on this data, this is where I think your property should be listed at. And that would be my recommendation, all soundly based on data, not based on algorithms or not based on what your neighbor said you can get for it or what your mom said or anything else. That's how based on, and that's we run along with that.
Yeah, and that's so important. And as he was explaining, upkeep of your house. If your cabinets is 15 years old, that changes something, and that says a whole lot of how you manage your home, your flooring, all that stuff. So in your home you'll see that these things should be updated at a certain point in time for you to maintain that value, because it will change the value of the home within there. Because if somebody updated their whole kitchen and your kitchen ain't been updated for 15 years, it's going to be a whole different price point, because you got to look at the new person coming in. They're going to want something up to date. And if they're
Yep.
not up to date, then they're going to say, how much do I have to spend for that up to date for it? And also, something else to consider, you can't go and think that this other house appraised higher, so you should be there. Understand that you got to keep it in the same standard as the other house that's trying to be listed, and go from there. And people will give you those opinions, as Melvin was stating. My house should be this much, it should be this much, or so, these algorithms, or all that stuff listed that like you see on Zillow and stuff.
Mm.
Always get a professional. Melvin's a professional. He's going to analyze it. He's going to provide you the feedback so you'll understand what you need to get it to that next step of the process. And folks, this is a key point I want to make. If you look at that time that Melvin's going to spend analyzing your home, putting all this stuff together, that's compensation. That should be some type of compensation. That should be in your mind that, hey, this is a service he providing. So when he goes through the whole checklist of stuff he do, that has to come into play. And Mel, just go as we transition to the next one. How much will I lose by not updating my bathroom? That's a good question. Mel, how would you answer that? Updated bathroom, not updated. You know.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It all depends on, again, obviously the type of home, the square footage, and then what type of bathroom design or layout you have. And what I mean by that is, if your full bathroom is this the standard toilet, sink, stand up shower, that the value for it may be different than another bathroom where it has a glass, a tiled bathroom. It has a jacuzzi similar to it. But on an average, just using typical, average home sales in Delaware right now, 300 to 400,000. Value wise, you're probably looking about 15. I would say 15 to 20, 25,000.
Wow,
So
that's a lot of money.
that's
What
a
about
lot.
a kitchen? You think, based on the kitchen?
Oh yeah. So, yep, kitchen just about the same, or probably up to 30.
Wow.
And those are the two main things, and good questions that that people are asking about the kitchen and bathroom. And because normally that's what buyers are looking at first, and is the kitchen. They're looking at the bathrooms,
Mm.
because that's kitchen is where most people are going to be, and especially if you have a lady next to you, that's the first thing
Mhm.
they're going to check.
Right. Those kitchens, those bathrooms, because that's where a lot of times in the kitchen is where you have your company come over.
Yeah.
You have your eating place, and that's where people look at. Is it someplace it's going to be nice, where it's going to be, look, do I want to eat in this kitchen?
Mhm.
Is it clean? Is it neat and stuff like that? And bathrooms, you have so many issues with bathrooms, as last week we was talking about making sure we had the right contractor when we're putting these things in. But I mean, what about the toilet leaks and the sink leaks, and the vanity and stuff outdating and stuff coming up? It changes the view of the home. It gets you on a whole different level of how good my home looks, how presentable it is to the public, and how the public's going to see it. And when you ask for that price, this is why I'm asking for it. This is why I'm at this price. And going from there, we start talking about it. Melvin done took the time to have that consultation now. He done sit down, walk through the house. And once he walked through and they had that discussion, and Mel, that discussion might talk about repairs or something like that, or something along that lines.
Mm-mm. Yep. So part of that conversation at the table is what basic repairs are needed, right? And then also what major repairs or updates or renovations are needed. Now, what I always keep in mind is that obviously as a seller, sometimes most sellers may not have all the funds or have the money available to make some of these updates, even if they want to. So I also on my end have to keep that in mind, that it may not be in a state where you could possibly get the highest top dollar for it,
Right.
but what can we do to still make it look presentable? Sometimes just a simple kitchen, it may not have been updated so much, but a little painting over the cabinets, giving it a neat paint over may be a difference maker, right? Sometimes you'll be amazed just decluttering the kitchen table, right? Can make a huge difference. So it's the little stuff that sometimes we overlook. You may have your toaster, you may have your what do you call the air fryer, all of these things on the table. I mean, on the countertop. It's good for your usage, but sometimes when buyers are walking in, even though they see it, it may be clogging their ability to see what the kitchen it has. So in my consultation, sometimes I may recommend that, hey, can we kind of declutter some of the stuff in the kitchen, and not just the kitchen, anywhere in the home, just so it keeps it uniform.
Yeah. Melvin said, can I keep my Formica countertops? What kind of value for Formica countertops? I think that's got to be the low end of the low end of value for that stuff. And people use that stuff. If you got Formica countertops, don't think you're going to get the same price as granite.
Right.
It's not, even though it looks beautiful, Formica, it looks good, but granite is the real material. And Mel, you probably can tell them value in Formica versus granite countertops can be tremendous. Probably, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, and it all varies. And what I mean by that is, I've walked through homes where they've done. We're talking about the kitchen, and maybe they changed the countertop. Right, they got granite on it, or even quartz, or the high end stuff. But maybe they didn't change the cabinet. They still got cabinets from 20, 30 years ago. They only changed the countertop. So as a buyer walking through, even though they love the granite or quartz countertop, but they're still kind of blinded by the cabinet still being old. It's just like, it looks like, and then this is what I start hearing. It looks like the seller, updated some stuff and they didn't update some stuff, and I'm not sure, whatever it is. So what I always advise is, this is just for the folks that are thinking about selling their homes or making renovations. If you're planning on updating any space, kitchen or bathroom, just kind of be mindful of what you're going to do. If you have an opportunity to update, most of the stuff, just go ahead and do it. So there's a formality around it versus just changing the vanity and not changing the, even the mirror lights. You still got the rusted lights on it, but you got a brand new vanity and it's just not matching, or you still got the tub, it's still got, still old and runky and stuff. So those are things that make a huge difference from getting, particularly in this market, it's still a seller's market, from getting 5 offers to getting from 5 offers versus 20 offers, right? Because one is semi-updated and the other one is fully updated.
That's good. Folks, don't forget, if y'all trying to reach Melvin, get your consultation, give him a call, 302-312-6042. So y'all can talk about these things. I mean, it makes sense to have the expert deal with it and give you some guidance on that before you go out here and not know the value of that home. You take it for granted that it's this much when it's really not that amount, and you want to get the best value. You need a consultant to deal with that and give you that expert advice when you're dealing with that, because it's so important. We see a lot of houses, they might sit on the market for a long time because that conversation never took place, that understanding of what should happen. Why is my house not selling? Because you never had the opportunity that the carpet needed, the hardwood floors need to be redone, or you got a lot of chips here, the basement smells like mold, and everything. And we stand out and we're like, oh man, this thing been on the market 30, 60, 90 days. I didn't even see houses on the market for 180 days. And people said, why? Because you didn't have the expert come there to give you the guidance to sell your home. That leads me to the next thing, talking about he's done provide the consultation, had the talked about the repairs, the upgrades, gave you did the homework of evaluations and everything, and now it's time to list it, and you're gonna have to have that listing agreement. You're gonna have to have that compensation talk for it. Before we go, it said Melvin said, "How much do I lose with the unfinished basement?" I don't know, Mel. What's your thoughts on that?
That's that's a tough one. 'Cause I've seen and experienced it all, where you may have a home where the basement is unfinished, but the upper levels are fully updated, and it's a beautiful home. It would sell equally as another property that has a finished basement.
Mm-hmm.
And it all depends on the condition of that that finished basement as well. So there's not a set, value that I could put to say that it's an unfinished.
Mm-hmm.
You get an XY amount. Now, does a finished basement help sell
Mm-hmm.
the home faster in most cases? Absolutely, right? Buyers walking into your home with the basement finished versus one that basement may not be finished. They're looking at it from a value of, if I'm buying this house and I got to finish the basement, how much is it going to cost, right? Additional to
Mm-hmm.
finish it versus this one where it's already finished. Maybe they may just have to do some cosmetic updates. The one that's finished may go faster than the one unfinished. But again, luckily we're in a market where sellers are kind of driving this. So
Mm-hmm.
as long as your home is listed at the right price, regardless of some of these things, and you show it in a presentable format, you're guaranteed that your home is going to sell within within a reasonable time that it sells within your particular area.
Yeah, and that's so important. I know everybody wants a finished basement. But the most important thing to the basement, you make sure you don't have no damage, no water, no walking down there and smelling like mold, or hidden mold where some finished basements, they hide it through paint. Behind that wall is mold. So sometime, is a finished basement always great? No. Is it good to have? Yes, if it's finished, it's neat, it's clean, and you really can see the freshness in that basement instead of the stuff, but the things you probably want to look for in the basement, I mean, you probably like, basement needs a sump pump, something like that. French drains is something. I know my house, when I was looking at it, I like, man, I got a French drain, I got a sump pump. Do I got a battery backup to my sump pump? Those things are important because we can always get it finished. We can pull that equity out finish up the basement so we can have it right and do it how we want it. And go from there. Will my driveway to add value? I'm going to say it's nice to have a driveway without gravel. you know, for I like a driveway, but I just don't. I know that people sometimes are going to frown on that too. If they don't have it paved or something. But all those things play a dramatic part in how we list this house, we get it situated. We done did that. Now we sitting down and Melvin's having that conversation about compensation. How we get compensated, what he's gonna do, and he's probably gonna break it down to all the work he has put in so far, but now he goes to another step when he starts telling me about that compensation, and you can talk about that, Mel.
Sure. Yep. So, part of listing your home, obviously, is a service that as a listing agent, I bring to offer. There has to be the conversation of compensation. And I always drive to the sellers what my standard commission fee is, which includes not only commission for me helping to sell your home, but obviously extending it to the agent that is also looking to bring a buyer to purchase your property.
Mm-hmm.
Compensation wise, it's at the table. We discuss it, and we normally go based on the standard that's out in the market at the moment. And I'm sure you guys have probably heard there's been some changes that are coming down the pipe, in terms of how agents offer their compensation with sellers and stuff. And I think it's going to change the market a little bit. But we're waiting to see how things shift out. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward. I think any changes that come within the real estate industry, definitely it's a good thing, because at the end of the day, it's all about the consumer, making sure that the consumers are treated fairly and treated well. But also from our side, we also want to make sure that we are compensated accordingly based on the work that we put in.
Right. And folks said that's time, effort. You thinking 30, 45 days. Melvin's going to do open houses. He might have to bring some snacks there. He has to take pictures of that home so he can post on all the different sites you see. It's a service that has to be thought about, and thought about it fairly. Some people might, oh man, I don't want to give you that much money. It's not a lot of money when you do the breakdown, of how much time is spent on that. So, if you want the professional to do it, as Melvin does, honor the compensation, leave it where it is. If it's something that's lingering there where you might think it's a short sale and stuff, you're going to have that conversation with Melvin and let him know that, because that's going to be another way to handle the situation.
Yeah.
Because Mel, I mean, how do we handle those short sales when we have those sellers dealing with those type of issues?
Yep. Good question. When it comes to short sales, as far as a professional, there's also another level of professionality, right? Meaning that there's another level of folks that deal soundly with short sales. So as a real estate agent, when I'm sitting with the seller and we kind of come to that conclusion that this is probably going to have to go a short sale route, then I have to bring in another professional as well. There are short sale experts that know how to handle dealing with the banks and trying to help sellers out of these situations so that they could be approved for a short sale, so that they can sell the home and not have any issues and still be able to compensate the agents in the process. With short sales, like I said, because there's a lot of moving parts dealing directly with the banks and timelines and deliverables, I always bring in experts, particularly in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. The experts that I work with, this is what they do day in and day out. They don't do anything else, all short sales. So it eases the concerns of the seller. It makes my job easier to be able to help them that we are putting the property up for sale as a short sale, and the process will be an ease. So and sometimes most sellers don't even, or they may not even be aware that the property is at that
Oh,
cups,
mhm.
that close to falling in that category. So that's why it's important to have a professional sit down with you so that we can look at all your numbers, mortgage balance, HELOC, second loans, just so many things on how long you've been, you haven't been paying the mortgage and factoring all your closing costs, transfer tax, all of those. So those are all things that we look at to see where you stand at when I meet with you.
Yeah. And yeah, good evening, folks that just arrived. We here with Melvin Sarpey, realtor, talking about listings. Listings. If you need to reach Melvin, 302-312-6042. Or you can just email him at msarpey@gmail.com to discuss these things, because they're a legitimate conversation. He's an expert that's going to guide through that. As he talked about, he has another set of professionals to help when we get to the short sale market, because that can be a very touchy situation. It can be very heart wrenching because we are upside down because of so many reasons can happen. We refinanced so many times. We took out a home equity line of credit with a high interest rate, and they kind of did some things. We did modifications. So many things happen in this process that when you listing your home, Melvin has to know all of that. He
Yeah.
has to put it together. He has to make it a resourceful type of property for the next buyer. It is a lot of emotions faced with those type of situations, but you have to sit down, have that conversation, talk about it so you can deal with that. And that's part of this listing agreement, to make sure your house is up to par. Even in short sales, that stuff still should be up to date, even if you take in a little loss on there. And as you sit down and try to figure out the whole process of getting that done. And some folks might say, well, my house is in Middletown, and going from there. Mr. Henson said, are any formulas for reversing the reverse mortgage? It's some things that we can be done. If you list the house or you selling the house, reverse mortgages can be paid off. The family has the first right, depending on the type of refinance you have, for that. So it's possible to do that. If you're listing your house with a reverse mortgage, that's another conversation. You're gonna have to tell Melvin, hey, I got a reverse mortgage on this house. It was my mom's, my dad's. They have transitioned on, and now I just need to list it. So I can make sure the bank gets paid back. And if anything's left, we would like it. For our family generational wealth. Those are conversations to have as well. For it. And Melvin talk about leaving items in there, Mel. What's normal for leaving items when you listen at home?
Yep. So as far as what you are leaving behind or not leaving behind, when we're at the table, we'll discuss it. So normally the the appliances come in hand. Those are the key things that most buyers are asking, right? Are they leaving a refrigerator? Are they leaving the microwave? Are they leaving the washer,
Yeah.
dryer, right? Because for most buyers, they are envisioning or looking at they going to buy this home that already come with the standard stuff. They're
Mhm.
not so most of them are not so much focused on your personal items, your personal property, your furniture. Sometimes they like it and they may ask for it, but it's not a requirement that you leave it. When it comes to leaving items, it's all up to the seller in terms of what they want to leave behind. Now, I know that The stove, there has to be a stove in there. Refrigerator is not required. Microwave is not required. Washer dryer is not required. Dishwasher, not sure, but there are certain things that is required to be left behind. Your um, fire, what do you call it?
Smoke detectors.
Smoke detectors. Thank you. You know, water heater. You can't just
Mhm.
pull it out because you got a tank of water heater. You want to take it with
Right.
you, and the home is not going to function. So that the basic things that one needs to kind of live, quote unquote,
Mhm.
is required to be left behind. And the other stuff, if they don't want it, they may have a pool table or a gym equipment in the basement. They can check that they will leave it to the next set of buyers. But the buyers can also make a decision that even though you're thinking about leaving, they could check that they don't want it, right?
Mhm.
So those become outside of the contract. How do you handle it? If the buyer don't want it, then unfortunately you have to take those things out before settlement. And to your point, in terms of what gets left behind and what does not, it all goes back to that contract that both parties sign.
Mhm.
So when the buyer submits the agreement of sale or offer to you, there's a section where they're going to check off everything that they want left in the home. And then actually, let me reverse back. When I sit with you as a seller to list your home,
Mhm.
on the seller's disclosure, you have a chance to check off everything that you are going to leave behind. So when a buyer is interested in purchasing your property, their agent is going to give them that seller's disclosure. And when they review it, they're going to see, okay, the seller's leaving a refrigerator, the
Mhm.
seller's not leaving a microwave, the seller's leaving the furniture, the seller's leaving this and that. And then when they make the offer, they have an opportunity to check what they want left or don't want left behind. And
Mhm.
that's what it is. When it comes to settlement or I should say before closing, when the buyer comes in to do a walkthrough, part of their walkthrough is they're checking to make sure that anything that was agreed in that contract to be left behind remains in the house, and anything that was signed in the contract to be taken out is taken out. On
Mhm.
top of that, they're also looking to make sure that there's not a lot of little pieces of remainance. You may have taken out all your personal property, all the furniture stuff, but then you purposely left, or maybe not purposely left, buckets or just
Mhm.
little stuff laying around. The agreement of sale, particularly for Delaware, does say that all these things have to be moved out. The home has to be clean, has to be cleared out for the buyer. If a buyer walks through your property they do the final walkthrough and they realize there's a lot of stuff left behind that they think it's quote unquote not fair, they can request that you have that handled before they go to settlement. And
Mhm.
I've experienced it, a few times that I had to jump in at the last minute, got that call when the buyers went for their walkthrough that, hey, personal stuff was taken out, but there's still a lot of little stuff, and my buyer don't want to deal with it because you got to realize when they're coming in, they also are moving in their own set of stuff, and they just want to
Mhm.
move in and pull their stuff off the truck and load it. They're not looking at coming, and now they have to call 1-800 get junk or call the.
Right. Right. Right.
They're
Yeah.
all looking at it from also a money budget side because everything is going to cost them in addition to doing that. So it's very important that we set the expectations and the list and agreement on the seller's disclosure, what's going to remain in the home as part of the sale and what's not going to remain when you prior to you moving out the house.
Yeah, and that's so important, to acknowledge what you want to leave behind, what has to go. I know some stuff we hoping somebody take our old weightlifting system that got a broken cord and all that stuff, but people don't want that stuff, and looking at it. And Melvin said something so important. People think that people got to leave washer and dryer and refrigerator. Those things are not mandatory as he was stating. But you know, be prepared that if you gonna go and buy a home, that they might not be there available for you, and you should take those into consideration when you're doing it. So he's doing a listing. He done broke down all this stuff that, you know, when you're gonna get out that house, what you really want to leave behind. The question you're gonna ask yourself is, would I want it if I was buying a house? If you wouldn't want it, don't think somebody else would want it for it. And going through that whole scenario, and that's important. Something else we want to talk about is that open house, Melvin. You know, we see these signs all the time, people putting the flags up, balloons and stuff. I mean, what's the purpose of the open house? You know, why do we do it?
Yep. So the whole concept with the open house is to allow the general public, right, to come and see your property. The reason why that is important is because you may have some folks that are probably considering buying a house, but they haven't taken that initiative of getting a pre-approval and whatnot. And maybe they saw your listing, right? They saw your property, they saw the pictures, they saw how beautiful it was, and something just clicked to them that, oh, I like this home, I want to go take a look at it. Because they probably have not been pre-approved yet, most realtors are not going to take them out to look at a house, which is exactly what they should do. If you're not pre-approved, we're not taking you out because there's a formality for it. But the open house allows that type of an individual to be able to walk through the home and see what it is for. Just that fact that they walked through and they saw your home for what it is may trigger them that they may be interested in wanting to buy your particular home, right? So now then they're reaching out or looking for a realtor to help them get pre-approved so that they can put an offer in your home. So it may be a particular buyer that, was not on the table before, but now all of a sudden they are interested in buying a home. Or sometimes it could be a neighbor. Neighbors may have friends that want to move in that community, right? It may not trigger for them until they see an open house. Not all the neighbors come to look at houses so they could tell their friends. Some just want to.
Right. Right.
But in most cases, I've had one instance where a neighbor told, their friend, and they came and looked. They put an offer in the property. Obviously, they didn't get it, but it does happen. And then also, the open house is also opportunity. Sometimes buyer agents schedule with their clients may not always fit, right? So it may be an opportunity for those pre-approved to also just come and see the property without their agent, or sometimes they even come with their agent just to walk through it. The goal is to get so much exposure on your home within normally 2 hour setting is what I do it. Within a 2 hour setting, outside of the schedules that other buy agents are bringing in, so that you have a lot of eyes on your home, that you can get an offer immediately or get multiple offers in this community. I mean, this market that we in. So that's pretty much the main goal of doing an open house.
Yeah, that's so important. And if somebody's out there looking to do an open house, you have Marvin Sarpey here, 302-312-6042, or msharpley@gmail.com. Give them a holler. You ready to list, you considering, you've been on a fence, get that expert advice, get that understanding about what your home's value. If you're looking to expand, it is very important. And Mr. Henson said, how important is curb appeal? It's very important. How your house look, how the outside look, how the landscaping, those are important parts that you have to make sure is up to par for this open house, because people will be very judgmental when they're making a decision for it and stuff. That you need that expert to go out here and provide you with that understanding of this open house offer. As he said, pre-approvals. Don't walk into an open house and think you're going to be able to get that house without a pre-approval. It's some steps. Give me a call. We can discuss that if you're trying to do that. But it is so important, and Isabel, you're right. This is great information that people understand the process of listing. We have Melvin out there spending all his time doing all this work in there, and we need to consider the effort and the work that they put in, the man hours that are extended for these. It should not go unnoticed. You probably a lot of folks probably think somebody took pictures, posted them on Zillow, MLS, and all these places, and say, "Oh man, you're gonna pay him $20,000 to do this." No, this is a long process. This is something that's up to date. Melvin has to put a lockbox on that door. He has to make sure, that's more money to make sure the people. He has to deal with the scheduling. And Mel, tell him how that scheduling works. Because people just think they can just show up and go see the house.
Yep. No, unfortunately not. So we're scheduling as a listing agent. When I sit down with my sellers, we discuss in terms of how important it is to enable pre-approved buyers to come in to see a home. And what I mean by that is that you need to be flexible as a seller to allow buyers to come in, right? I do understand that, sometimes maybe Sundays you don't want any showings because it's family time.
Mm-hmm.
That may be fine, but guess what? Sundays are sometimes most of the days that most families also have time. They want to see houses. Open house, for example, in my experience, doing an open house on Saturday versus Sunday, there's more higher turnout or turnout ratio on Sundays versus Saturdays. For whatever reason, that's just what it is. So it's important that you're flexible with, allowing showings. And on my side, with the software that we use, I'm able to adjust the time blocks as far as maybe on Mondays between 12 to 3, and there's no showings, right? How long can agents show the properties for, whatnot, and so forth. It's very important. Reason being is that if you're limiting the amount of showings on your property, basically you're limiting the number of people that can see it, and you are extending the time for people to see your home and process it so they can make an offer on it. And then when it comes to scheduling also, like I said, you got to be flexible. It's going to be very uncomfortable in the beginning, probably. Why? Because you're going to have to start leaving your house so buyers and agents can come in. I don't recommend or advise that you stay in the home if not necessarily. Sometimes there's situations that that doesn't allow for you to leave, which is fine. But in most cases, if you can leave the house so that the buyers can come in and see it, it's better. Reason why is when they come in and they're not seeing the sellers, they don't feel like someone is right on their shoulder.
Right.
More at ease to process in your home what they're seeing. If there's someone around, they get a little stiff. Why are they home? Used to this. What are they looking at? Why are they talking to me? Stuff like that. So just be flexible, and we can always work around your schedule in terms if there's times that may not be feasible. But scheduling is very critical with this process.
Yeah, you hear it, folks. Melvin Sarpey, 302-312-6042, msarpey@gmail.com. Give them a call, touch bases with them. Your home expert listing specialist that can provide you with the guidance you need for these homes, for that listing, for that appointment. And as you heard, scheduling is another task that they're faced with, because as long as that house is listed, he's got to keep the calendar up to date, keep your flexibility, let the people know when they can and cannot come through. And that's time that's accounted for during the whole process. And this listing situation is very detailed. It has so much to offer for when you're doing it, and make sure it's maintained. Melvin has to make sure your house is locked when the people leave, and stuff. So you have to take that and go from there. Can my house be too black? Yeah, you you want some open colors. You don't want a whole lot of dark colors in that house, because Mel, tell us, it makes the room look smaller or something to that effect. I was told.
Yeah. So from a buyer's perspective, when buyers walk in, bright colors, neutral colors, I should say, uh, just allows them to see your home for what it is, envision it more clearly, as opposed to like darker colors. It may be your taste, which is perfectly fine, but
Mm-hmm.
remember, at this point, it's not about you, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
trying to sell your house,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to provide something that um, the consumer wants. So if you got that dark colored room, fine for you. But when it times to listing, if you can change it, get it painted, I would say definitely paint and keep it very neutral, so that when buyers walk in, they can envision it. If they plan to change the colors themselves later, they have their own ideas of colors that they want to. But as much as you can keep it neutral, try to do so. Now, if you got, one wall green, one wall red because you got kids, sometimes in the bedrooms, yeah, it's fine. But in the living room area where, most of the family kind of stays most of the time, you definitely don't want to do too much creativity. Now, if you live in there, like I said, that's fine. But when it comes to selling it, in most cases, I have recommended that let's paint and keep it neutral, just so you can get the right offer at the right time. And if it's a situation where you cannot, and we're on the market and we're not selling based on the feedback that I'm getting from buyers agent, that the buyers felt that there's too many colors in the house, then we may have to discuss some sort of a credit back to the buyer. Then on my side, I'm going to update the listing information, get back to other agents to say, hey, my sellers are willing to credit the buyers X amount so they can get the place painted. Just so we can take that burden off of any buyers that are looking to purchase it, but they're so blinded by all the colors that they're thinking they have to come in and paint. So that's a good one.
Yeah, for it and stuff, and it's culture, yeah. In our
Gotcha.
culture, we do things according
Yeah.
to what we like, and it can be that situation. But remember, we're in the market of selling, thinking about the profit, making sure that it's just flexible for the next person that's coming in to do their own painting. Are we going to have some off colors sometime? Yeah, we are, but we recommend, as Melvin said, stay neutral for it. Keep it up to standard, because you're probably going to do a little touch-up painting before you list it or something like that if you haven't painted in a while, and dealing with something. And also something we didn't mention here is Melvin, talk about contractors, and they might need some repairs and stuff
Mhm.
like that. How does that work? Would they just come to the realtor, or how do we find the right contractor for the situation?
Question. Absolutely. So on my side, I have a handful of, I should say, trusted contractors, at least for now in the moment, that
Mhm.
I could recommend for any type of contract job that needed, right? And most of the contractors I work with have an idea, because they've done quite a few
Right.
jobs for some of my sellers that were coming on the market, that they know what they need to do and are budget friendly. But also, as a seller, sometimes you may know other contractors, or
Hmm.
friends, or other people that can do it. The main goal is just making sure that we're going to get someone who is going to get in that property, get the job done within the time frame that we need, so you can list your property at the right time. And then also with contractors, if you're going on Google or searching for it, you just want to make sure you do your due diligence, check reviews, check their licensing, make sure that they're licensed and bonded, and just make sure that that they're get some other estimates, make sure that you're getting the right cost for it, so you're not overspending if not need be.
Yeah. And like Mr. Henson said last week, we got to vet these contractors, make sure we getting somebody that's not going to take our money and run off,
Mhm.
as, a resource that Melvin has is that, he has a list of recommended contractors that you can use, that he's going to set you up so you won't have to do a lot of hunting and you can go and get their estimates. So, it can work out for you. So it's a lot of detail work that Melvin puts into this listing appointment and work that needs to be done that it shouldn't go unnoticed. It's a worthy cause. It's a project. It takes a while sometimes. All houses aren't the same, as he said. Some houses going to need some different things, some different resources. But man, recommend give them a call, Melvin Sarpey, 302-312-6042 or msarpey at gmail.com so that conversation can be had. You listing, we got buyers, you have someone out there on the fence or trying to figure out how to analyze if they want to purchase this listing or something. Give them a call, have that conversation so he can sit down and have the opportunity to guide and provide you with the best knowledge you have, because most folks think that it's a walk in the park. It's time consuming.
Yeah.
It takes time. Melvin does a lot of driving and finding things and got to look and analyze and stuff like that. So, give them a call, touch bases so you can have an understanding of this buying and selling process. And that is so important in this market now. So your house can get sold, you can find the right house, and that you have everything that it needs to keep going and go forth. We're going to go ahead, and I know we done took up y'all time tonight. We thank you, but I'm going to let Mel have some last closing words before we end our show today.
Absolutely, and thanks for the opportunity again. From a listing agent or listing perspective side, I think from a consumer, when you're looking for someone to list your home, you definitely want to make sure that there's, I want to say, synergy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you want to look at their history. You
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that they're going to deliver what they're saying. And what do I mean by that? Check reviews, right?
Yeah.
Check some of their past listings that they've done. Uh, check check how often when you call them they're answering or not getting back to you from the onset. What I see my position and my job is between agent and sellers. Most agents are emotionally attached to their home, which is perfectly fine because
Mm-hmm.
this has been your baby, I should call it, since
Yeah.
inception, and you're at the point where you want to sell it. But what I've always see or notice is that it's very difficult for owners to break off at that point when they have to sell it, from separating themselves from the home to now it becoming a property.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming in there, just helping you in terms of that emotional attachment,
Mm-hmm.
helping you kind of break off from it
You're
so
right.
that you can get to the end goal, which is helping you sell that property. So it's tough, but I believe I do a pretty good job in helping that process, or at least helping sellers. So I look forward to helping those out there that are thinking about selling their home. And I appreciate you guys jumping in and learning. And I'm also learning stuff, obviously, from Johnny as well.
Yeah.
So thanks for the time.
Yep. As y'all know, this Creative Finance with JB. Man, thank y'all for showing up again. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you next week at 7 p.m. And thanks again to Melvin come out to provide us with this education. And we had a great time. Y'all have a great week.
Yep. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.